everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Quarantine Cuisine. My name is Chef Kayla, and I am a culinary demonstrator from Johnson Wales University. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning back in this week. For our recipe, we are going to be making homemade pizza. And when I say homemade, I mean homemade. From the crust to the sauce, we have a plethora of toppings over here that I will show you guys in a minute. So yeah, we're gonna make homemade pizza. It's a pretty basic recipe. You are going to need a pack of active yeast, and I know that's kind of been hard to find right now. Hopefully you guys have some hidden in your cabinet somewhere at home. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I already sifted out 3 cups of all-purpose flour into a big mixing bowl, and then I dumped 1 packet of dry active yeast into a bowl, and then I added a tablespoon of sugar. If you guys only have cane sugar, white sugar, any type of sugar like that will work. And then we're going to add a cup of water into our yeast and sugar mixture, and this is going to activate the yeast. And you have to make sure that your water is hot. You want it to be like hot bath water. So I just got that from the tap. It's pretty hot. I'm going to add a whole cup right into the yeast and the sugar, and I'm just going to give that a mix. And we're going to want to let this sit for about 10 minutes. It will start to get foamy, and if it doesn't get foamy, you're going to have to start all over because that means your yeast is not active. So we're going to let this sit for 10 minutes, and then I'll come back and show you guys the next steps. So now that our yeast has been sitting for about 10 minutes, we are going to add a half a teaspoon of salt right into our flour. Remember, our flour has been sifted, and this is just going to create a very smooth dough, and you're not going to have any lumps in there, which is going to be great. So now that our yeast is ready to go, I'm going to make a little well in my flour mixture. Make sure the salt is all mixed in nice and even. So go ahead and make a little hole in the center. Go ahead and dump in your yeast, sugar, and water. And then we're gonna add a tablespoon and a half of olive oil. And this is gonna help bind together our dough. So you just want a tablespoon and a half of olive oil. And I will go ahead and put up the measurements on the screen there for you guys so you can follow along. And then you're just gonna give this a good mix until a ball of dough starts to form. If it's too dry, you can add more water, and if it's too sticky, you can add a little more flour. I'm in Colorado, so it's very dry here, so sometimes baking anything in a very dry climate, you kind of have to add a little more moisture to it. And I think that's gonna be the case here because my dough is looking a little too dry. I'm gonna add a little more water, about a 1/4 cup, start with an 1/8 cup, and then you wanna add a little at a time. And keep mixing until it forms into a ball. A little more water. So it's starting to come together pretty well. It's looking a little too dry still. So I'm gonna add a little more water. Again, if you're in a very dry climate, you're gonna add a little more water than what the recipe calls for. Again, adding only a little bit at a time so it doesn't get too sticky. Make sure you're getting all of the little crumbs at the bottom of the bowl, and you're not leaving any flour behind in your bowl. So now that my dough is coming together, I'm gonna lay some flour down. You're just going to want to lay a little bit of flour down so when you go to knead your dough, it doesn't get stuck. Just a little flour. And then go ahead and roll your dough out of your bowl onto the floured surface. And you're gonna knead it maybe 2 or 3 times at the most, just to get it all put back together and kind of create a big ball like this. So now you're gonna have to wait 30 minutes for your dough to rise. Go ahead and just place it back into your bowl. And you're gonna place a dish towel over it, and you're gonna set it aside. You do not need to put it in the oven or in the fridge. You don't need a hot area. You're just gonna set it aside for 30 minutes. Go ahead and prep the rest of your veggies. Okay, I let my dough rest for 30 minutes under a dish towel. I am going to start rolling it out If you have a pizza stone, go ahead and get that heated up. If you're gonna be baking this just in your regular oven on a baking sheet or on the rack, go ahead and preheat your oven to 425 Fahrenheit, and you're just gonna wanna roll out the dough. If you're gonna make a circle dough, you can roll it out in a circle shape. If you're going to be putting it on a baking sheet, go ahead and do it in a rectangle shape. It'll be a little bit easier for you to put your toppings on and your sauce and your cheese. So this is our pizza. I'm actually going to throw this onto a baking sheet and shape it into a rectangle. Okay, so I rolled out my pizza crust. It's just sitting on a baking sheet right now, and we're gonna move on to our homemade pizza sauce. This is going to be pretty simple, and you can have a lot of freedom with this. So I did dump in 2 cans of regular tomato sauce into a sauce pot, and then this is where you can have a little bit of freedom. You can add any spice that you like, but you're gonna wanna stick with Italian seasoning. So oregano, basil, thyme, rosemary, parsley, spices like that, and then I have a little bit of garlic, onion, and black pepper as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and add probably a teaspoon of every spice to start out with. And then if we wanna taste our sauce as we go, which I highly recommend, taste your food as you go. It will help make your dish taste really, really good in the end. And we can always add more seasonings if we taste it and need more. So I did onion, garlic. This is Italian seasoning, so it has a little bit of everything. I'm gonna do a heaped teaspoon of that. Some basil. You can also use fresh herbs if you have fresh herbs as well. Fresh basil would be really, really good in homemade tomato sauce, pizza sauce. A little bit of oregano. I love basil and oregano. I use those 2 spices a lot in a lot of my dishes because I love them. If you love a certain spice, use those in your dishes, because if you like the taste of it, you're gonna like the taste of the dish that you put it in, right? And then we're gonna add a little bit of black pepper, just for some spice. So go ahead and give that a mix. We actually aren't gonna add any salt, but if you want to add salt, you can. The tomato sauce already has salt in it, so we should be good there. So go ahead and just give that a stir. If you want to heat it up for a little bit, you can just bring it to a little simmer and then heat up your sauce before you go ahead and spread it onto your pizza. Guys, now it's the most fun part of the whole recipe, making the pizza. So we put our dough out on a baking sheet. If you're using a pizza stone, go ahead and get that out. And then we are going to lay down our homemade sauce first. And I'm just using a regular spoon. And you can kind of just go in circular motions. Make sure your crust isn't over the edges like mine is. I did it like that so it would stay. Okay, so go ahead and just take your spoon and start circle motions, using circle motions to spread out the sauce nice and evenly. Depending how much sauce you want, it's up to you. I'm going to do a even coat all over the bottom of the crust. You can even use pesto, would be really good in this, or any type of regular white cheese sauce would be really yummy. If you don't have pizza sauce or tomato sauce at home, you can make your own sauce. It doesn't have to be a red pizza sauce either. Get creative. Pesto pizza is like the best thing ever. So now that my sauce is nice and spread out, make sure it's nice and even all the way across. we are going to add our cheese. So I am going to be using mozzarella today. If you guys have a cheese preference, you can go ahead and use whatever cheese you want. I'm going to be using the shredded cheese here. And I'm going to, again, evenly spread it out across the entire crust. Make sure you get all of it on there, just like that. And then you can play around with your toppings. So I have a mixture of a bunch of different toppings. So I have some Italian sausage here that I'm gonna throw on. You can use any type of ground meat that you want. You could use turkey, would be really good. Or you don't have to use meat at all. If you don't eat meat, or if you don't have any meat at home, or if you just don't want to eat any meat today, you can use whatever you want. So go ahead and spread that all around. And then I have a little bit of mushrooms, so I'm gonna add those on top as well. Just a few, help with that meaty texture there. You could use pepperoni. I didn't even say pepperoni. You can also buy pepperoni and use pepperoni. Spinach we're actually gonna do last. So I have a diced red bell pepper. To add on top. I like red bell pepper on my pizza more than any other type of pepper, but if you have a different pepper, you can use that. Use whatever you want. And then I'm gonna lay down some spinach right on top there, and you don't even need to pre-cook the spinach. It will actually cook in the oven very quickly. You could also put the spinach on the bottom if you want. So those, I do have tomatoes, but I'm actually not going to use tomatoes since I did use the red bell peppers on this pizza. If you want to get creative with your toppings, get creative with your toppings. Use what you guys like, or just use whatever you have in your pantry. Again, this is all about quarantine cuisine and using those pantry staples and what you have in the fridge. So that is it for our pizza, you guys. I will go ahead and add a photo of the finished product once we bake it. You're actually gonna bake it for about 10 to 15 minutes in a 425 degree oven, basically until the crust is cooked all the way through and it's not raw on the bottom and you have those nice golden edges. Okay, so I'm just gonna give a quick overview of Johnson Wales University. So we do have 4 campuses spread out across the country. So our main campus is in Providence, Rhode Island. We have one in Charlotte, North Carolina, North Miami, Florida, and then Denver, Colorado. So aside from our culinary and baking and pastry programs, we do have a ton of other majors that we offer. Hospitality, criminal justice, fashion, merchandising and retailing, business, entrepreneurship, nutrition, the list goes on and on. So what makes us unique? So we do teach a hands-on learning experience, and we also teach an upside-down curriculum. So that just means that you're gonna be in the field working with industry professionals, and you're gonna be taking classes that are related to your major your first and second year. So that's super exciting. That way you get to kind of feel it out, see what the program is gonna be like right away. For on-campus life, we try and keep our students as involved as we can. So we do have clubs and orgs that you guys can join. We have a ton of events that we host throughout the year. There are dorms on all of our campuses, so you can live in dorms if you live far away. We'd love for you guys to find out more information. You can always visit our website or go to the link on the next slide to request some more information. All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in to our pizza video this week. I hope you guys are making those yummy pizzas at home. Again, if you would like more information about Johnson Wales, go ahead and click the link on the next slide after the photo of our final pizza, and you can go ahead and request some more information. I hope you're enjoying these videos, and I will see you next week.